Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at a landmark decision from the Supreme Court of Canada that delves into the heart of Indigenous rights and the Crown's constitutional duties. In Shot Both Sides vs. Canada, the court tackled some of the most pressing questions about how Canada must respect and uphold Indigenous land rights and governance. This case, decided just this past April, offers important guidance on the Crown's obligations under Aboriginal law. So, what's the story here? Shot Both Sides is an Indigenous group that brought a claim against the government of Canada. At the core of their dispute was a conflict over land use and governance, a situation that's all too familiar across the country. Shot Both Sides argued that Canada failed to meet its constitutional duties by not properly consulting or accommodating their interests before making decisions that affected their traditional lands. They claimed that this failure infringed on their Aboriginal rights, which are protected under the Constitution. To break it down, Shot Both Sides said the government didn't live up to the promises embedded in Section 35 of the Constitution Act, 1982, which recognizes and affirms existing Aboriginal and treaty rights. They pointed to the Crown's duty to consult and accommodate Indigenous peoples when their rights might be impacted by government actions. This duty isn't just a formality, it's a constitutional obligation meant to respect Indigenous peoples' connection to their lands and ensure their voices are heard before decisions are finalized. The Supreme Court had to answer some big questions. First, they needed to clarify the scope and content of the Crown's duty to consult and accommodate Indigenous groups like Shot Both Sides. How far does this duty reach? What exactly must the government do to fulfill it? Second, the court had to consider the extent of Aboriginal rights protected by the Constitution in this context. What kinds of rights are at stake, and how should they be balanced against government interests? Finally, they had to set out the legal standards for resolving disputes that arise over Indigenous land claims and governance, providing a roadmap for future cases. In its decision, the court reaffirmed that the Crown's duty to consult is a fundamental part of Canada's constitutional framework. The duty arises when the government has knowledge, real or constructive, of a potential Aboriginal right or title and contemplates conduct that might adversely affect it. This duty requires meaningful consultation, which means the Crown must engage in good faith with Indigenous peoples, listen to their concerns, and, where appropriate, accommodate their interests. It's not enough to just go through the motions. The consultation has to be substantive and aimed at reconciliation. The court also emphasized that Aboriginal rights protected under Section 35 are not frozen in time. They evolve and adapt, reflecting Indigenous peoples' ongoing relationship with their lands and cultures. This means the government must carefully consider the nature of these rights and the impact of any proposed actions. When rights are affected, the Crown's duty to consult and accommodate helps ensure that Indigenous peoples have a real say in decisions that affect them. Why does this case matter? Shot Both Sides vs. Canada reinforces the principle that Indigenous rights are constitutional rights, rights that must be taken seriously and respected in practice. It clarifies the legal obligations on the Crown and provides guidance on how to navigate complex disputes involving Indigenous land claims. This is crucial for building better relationships between Indigenous peoples and the government and for advancing reconciliation. Moreover, the decision sends a clear message to all levels of government and industry. When Indigenous rights and interests are on the line, consultation isn't optional. It's a constitutional duty that supports respectful dialogue, mutual understanding, and ultimately, fairer outcomes. This case will likely shape how governments approach Indigenous consultation across Canada for years to come. In the bigger picture, Shot Both Sides vs. Canada is part of a growing body of law recognizing and affirming Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. It highlights the ongoing journey toward reconciliation and the need for governments to move beyond mere acknowledgement toward meaningful partnership. For Indigenous communities, it offers a reaffirmation of their rights and a tool to protect their lands and cultures. Thanks for tuning in to Bench Briefs. Join us next time for another episode where we break down important legal decisions that shape Canada. Until then, take care.